Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Match Ball podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now, today's episode is a new one. It's a fresh one. It's another technical one for me, and I'm joined by not only a person who has been a past guest on this episode. I am also joined by, first of all, Anuraag Kulkarni, and I'm also joined by Amod Sahasrabuddhe, who previously was a guest, but now he is debuting as my co-host. So, hello Anurag, hello Amod, and welcome to the podcast.
Yeah. Hi,
Hey,
Rohan. Hi, Amod.
hi,
Thanks for
thank
having
you.
me.
Yeah, same here. Thanks for co-hosting. Allow me to co-host a podcast. That's my first time.
Yeah, and I mean, I hope all first times are special. So I'm glad that you chose to have your first time here on this podcast, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Right. So today's episode is a very, very special one because we are back with lots of technical stuff which I don't understand, but I'm very much willing to learn and get to know. Now, today we are going to talk about data visualization in football, and Anurag has a lot of things which he has worked on, and he will share, and which we will get to in the later half of this episode. But first of all, guys, we are fresh off Saturday's Premier League action, and Everton have defeated Man United 1-0. Since both of you are United fans, and me as a Chelsea fan, having not had the best week, I'd rather share I'll bring you guys into the sorrow and ask you how you were feeling about that match. First of all, Anurag, your thoughts on the 1-0 defeat to Everton away from home.
So this was probably one of the worst matches under Ralph Rangnick. This was very eerily similar to how we started the season. So we started the season pretty poorly. Ralph came in, even though the scoreline never really reflected what was happening, but the underlying numbers showed that we were improving. Our shots, our number of chances created, our defense, everything was improving. But something happened after that UCL exit. Um, it looks like the players lost confidence. They gave up. I don't know what happened, but we have completely regressed to what we were before Ranick came in. And we saw everything that you don't want to today. When Ralph came in, he mentioned a few things. He wanted control, he wanted quality, he wanted pressing, he wanted intensity. All things which are absent. We didn't have any sort of control. We didn't press very well, except a couple of players who individually are good pressers. There was not much intensity, and it was just poor overall. Um, Bruno had probably one of the worst games of his United career. I'd say at least I don't remember him being this bad. We conceded a goal which should not happen. Matic, I think it was Matic, I think, who lost the ball.
Yeah.
They scored from the subsequent counter. Wan Bissaka jogging back, no purpose, no intensity again. So, and then we just didn't create anything. It usually what happens in such games is that you do a lot, you try to create a lot, the ball just doesn't go in, and the opposition just get lucky and they score. While that's true on the Everton half, that they got lucky because let's admit it, it was a deflection. United didn't do anything to win the game, so
Yeah.
it just happens.
Yeah. So here, I'm in Boston right now. The game was at 7:30. I woke up. I woke up 10 minutes late to the game. I saw we were playing decent. I did not see anything bad. Rashford took a shot which should have gone in. Had a header as well. Good chances here and there. I thought we might get something from the game. And then they scored that crazy goal. And halftime, I was like, I had this feeling that I don't think we are going to create much after that goal went in. It just felt so, the body language of the players was so wrong. It just did not go, nothing was going well for us. I just did not watch the second half at all. Like, it was that bad. I preferred sleep over watching the game.
Yeah, I can understand. I think I read a tweet from someone that there were 8 Everton players in their own box, and at a point of time, only 2 United players were in that box. So
Yeah.
kind of showed that there was something lacking, and there was so the intent to attack and the intent to win, the loose header here and there was missing in the entire game. And I can somewhat understand that after the midweek result that Chelsea have had with a hammering by Karim Benzema. I won't say it was a hammering by Real Madrid, it was a hammering by Karim Benzema, because because he is, if there is ever a term, he is Mr. Real Madrid right now, and he is what
True.
makes Madrid right now. And yeah, so it was I mean, I can understand what happens, and when a freakish goal, and suddenly you spiral down, and some errors here and there. I mean, I've not seen the match, I'll be honest with you, so I don't know how Everton played. I just saw one statistic that in the second half, or I think in the total half, in both halves there were there were 8 shots on goal and 1 shot on target only, which again, for a team playing for a top four against a team who is fighting for relegation, is a very small number. And
True.
I can completely sympathize with you guys, and I didn't mean to rub it in, but I've had a bad week, so I'd rather share the sorrow with you. And plus, a little cherry on the top for us right now, on this cake of sorrow, a cherry is that Chelsea have won against Southampton. It was not a 9-0 hammering, but that's simply Chelsea, because even when we win, and when we are expected to win by a big margin, we always find out the lowest big margin possible to win. So that's the wrap up for a quick reaction to today's matches. And yeah, so now let's focus on our guest of honor, Anuraag Kulkarni. Now, Anurag, I've seen a bit of your visualizations. I've seen the tremendous amount of work that you have done, and the articles that you come out with, week in, week out. I just wanted to, kick things off before Amod takes over and gets all techie. I mean, how did you get into this football? I mean, was it something that you intentionally wanted to get into, or was it just something that happened by chance?
So I was never a football fan from a young age. So it was 2010 where there was this fad on Facebook. There were these quizzes: which footballer are you? Which
Yeah.
XYZ are you?
Yeah.
So I just randomly took one for football. I don't know why, and it just spew out Fernando Torres. And
Ah.
I had no idea who this guy is. And one friend of mine who was an ardent football follower told me he plays for Spain. Please watch the World Cup final. He's going to play. He has long hair and he wears a a
Right.
hairband. And I spent the whole match thinking, okay, Sergio Ramos is Fernando Torres. And I think Fernando Torres, if I remember correctly, it was such a long time ago. I think he came late on, and then I realized, oh, okay, I totally got it confused. So that
Right.
is how I watched my first football game, because of Fernando Torres. And my cousins are big Manchester United fans. I knew that about them, but because I started watching it by like because of Fernando Torres, I was just following him. Whatever he did, wherever he went, I supported that club until I think he went to AC Milan, and then I was like, cool, time to go to Manchester United, because that is where my cousins are. That is all I hear about, and that is how I started truly following football when United were truly at their worst. And yeah, that is how I got into football. Then there's this YouTube channel called Football Daily. I assume a lot of people have already heard of it.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I watched their videos, and they were using these absurd things called statistics and numbers. And I was like, this is very interesting, because this gives me a way to um, put it out there what I'm thinking.
Mhm.
Like, you say, oh, we missed so many big chances. They just got lucky and they scored. This is something you say, but you can't express, you can't write it down. And that is where XG came in. So
Ah,
when you
okay.
lose and you have created like 1.5 xg, but you haven't scored, and the opposition from zero point 0.3 xg have scored 2 goals or 1 goal and they win, how do you tell people that, hey, we were good, trust me, we were good, they just got lucky?
Yeah.
And and that is how I felt that this is something that needs to be more common, and this gives me a better understanding of the sport that I have started to love. And that's how I got interested in statistics and these background numbers, these underlying numbers. So yeah, that is how I got in.
Right. So it's,
Fantastic.
I mean, it's a like, the very fact that you thought Fernando Torres was Sergio Ramos. I mean,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
still followed
Yeah.
him,
Yeah.
and like you didn't fall in love with Ramos, but you still were. I mean, what Ramos did, but you still preferred to follow Torres wherever he went.
Yeah.
I wish you followed him until he came to Chelsea, so at least you would have been supporting a Chelsea, a Champions League winning club, and Fernando Torres at the same time.
I watched that whole Champions League run of
Great.
Chelsea.
Right, right.
I screamed when Fernando Torres scored that goal
Yeah.
against
I
Barcelona.
guess, I guess, I guess you're not the only one on this call who screamed when Fernando Torres scored that goal. So I'm glad that at
All
least,
right.
even though you're a hardcore United fan, we have that one thing in common, apart from
Yeah.
the undying love for football. Right.
True.
So I think this is a perfect segue for us to then. You mentioned about XG, you mentioned about statistics, and I'm sure there is a lot more that you're going to mention. So Amod, take it away. Let's kick things off with your questions up for Anurag.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. First of all, Anurag, fantastic. Like, the entire idea of following Fernando Torres is just amazing. It's funny to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you do apart from building visualizations? Like, are you from a computer science background or a statistical background?
I'm from an electronics background.
I see.
job was My actual job was to validate chips, all these graphics card and all these things. That
Right.
is what my actual job was. Then, totally out of chance, I just saw people make these visualizations, basic visualizations on Twitter,
Right.
and I just thought, how are they doing this?
Hmm.
And the one good thing, probably the only good thing I did in college was pick up Python on my own,
Yeah.
and I realized, okay, this is how they do it.
Right.
And I just started experimenting. I started liking it more and more. Through data visualization, I came to know about data analysis. Through data analysis, I came to know data science.
Fair.
Then the machine learning thing. And then I talked to my manager. I left that project and I switched to a machine learning based role. I
Great.
basically was learning on my own side by side. Learned some basic machine learning algorithms, computer vision. I worked on a project there. So yeah, I'm
Interesting.
not at all from a computer science or this background.
That's amazing because I am from a computer science background and I started coding in Python from my second year. So when I was introduced to this side of football analytics through Soccermatics and David Sumter, we all know him, love him.
Yeah.
His great work on Twitter and outside of football as well. So yeah, I kind of picked from there, following his Friends of Tracking channel. So I was so here's the thing, I'm not that good at visualizations. Like, I like building models, the statistical side, as you mentioned, building machine learning models out of things like from the data that we have. But building visualization is something that I've never been good at. So what is something that uh, like, what do you do when you make visualizations? Like, what is your thought process? Like, where do you go? Like, take it away.
So usually the point where I start is I have something in my mind. I want to say it to people, but I don't just want to say it in words.
Hmm.
I want to show it to them that this really is the case. So, for example, if I say Daley Blind is a very good passer,
Hmm.
someone will just come to me, but Jose Mourinho sold him. Clearly, he wasn't good.
Hmm.
How do I prove it to them without showing them 100 hours of Daley Blind footage
Yeah,
that he's a good passer?
exactly.
And that was my thinking behind data visualization, that you have a point, how do you put it across in a way that everyone understands it?
Right.
That is where I usually start with these things.
Right.
What thought I have in mind, what I want to put it out there.
Fair.
I just come with
And
that.
yeah, so, and how do you make those suggestions? Like, you mentioned Python as one of the tools that you picked up. Do you use some other tools like Tableau, or do you use Excel? Do you use these kind of features as well that to produce fancy visualizations?
So, broadly speaking, most of the pass maps and carry maps, short locations, they are done in Python. All the scatter plots and line plots, I do it either in Tableau or in Excel.
Right.
And I use PowerPoint to just put it all together on one page.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah.
Interesting.
Three
Yeah.
main things broadly. Yeah.
Yeah. So you use a combination of everything and kind of put everything back in a one PowerPoint presentation slide. That's interesting. Yeah. It's something. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah,
Also, what?
Amod, before
Yeah.
we continue, I think Anurag, you mentioned something called as Tableau, if I'm not wrong. So I've never
Yeah.
heard of it. Can you just elaborate a little bit on what it actually does?
Mm.
So Tableau is actually used a lot for business analysis and data analysis. It is a way to make visualizations without coding. So it has
Okay.
automated everything for you. You just
Okay.
feed in data, and it'll just throw out a scatter plot, throw out a line plot, bar graphs,
Okay.
histograms, stuff like that.
Okay. And so the input data, it's you don't need to code, right? Like you just mentioned, or
No,
I. Okay. So it's for someone like me who's
nothing.
from a commerce background and I have no idea what coding is. I can use that if I want to produce maybe some level of basic visualizations.
Yeah, 100%. It's very user friendly. It's pretty easy to
Okay.
use.
Okay. And obviously, you must be needing some form of customized visualization. So for that, do you have to, use Tableau in a different way, or you use Tableau for a specific purpose and then move on to something else which helps you justify your purpose? I mean, to rephrase it, uh, do you ever face limitations with Tableau since there is no need to code, and I believe that coding itself will enable you to have a more customized output? So
Yeah,
do you see limitations in Tableau which makes you switch to some other program?
yeah, 100%. That is why I only use Tableau for scatter plots, maybe where I'm comparing, broadly comparing only through numbers. So yeah, I think this is the best way to put it. When I'm working only with numbers, purely with numbers, and those are what I want to highlight, I'll use Tableau. But
Okay.
something like a passing plot or a defensive heat map,
Right,
that is
right.
where I use Python, because there it's not just numbers. I have to convert numbers into a more visual thing, and it's not comparison based more. So yeah,
Okay.
that is
Okay.
where I
Okay.
switched to Python.
Got you. Got you. Got you. Yes, Amod, back to you.
Right. Yeah. So I believe you have a presentation for us. So if you can just quickly share and talk us more, and people can see what great work you put out.
I'm glad that any form of techie, fancy data visualization or machine model, whatever thing we have, the participant and the guest is always more eager to share its screen. So I'm very happy
Yeah.
with that. Yes, Anurag, take it away.
Yeah. So I hope it's visible.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
it
it
is.
is.
Yeah. So anyone who thinks that I got good immediately as I start when I started, this is what my first visualizations were like. They are not aesthetically good looking. They are not very, you know, pleasing to look at. Not very informative, I'll say, because from the experience I've gained now, I know what is missing in all this. But yeah, this is how I started. It was just playing around with basic libraries and just trying to learn what I'm doing, how to do this, how to get better at it. I always thought that I'll just start and then just make and I'll just post it.
Mm.
The aesthetics can come later.
Yeah, that's a good
So
way
Right.
to
this is,
start, I guess.
Yeah. And
yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's relatable for me also. Like if you listen back to the first podcast that I ever published, it was with two of
Mm.
my friends. I was absolutely dreadful, and I'm by no means an expert right now, but I would like to say that there has been a bit of improvement episode after episode. So I can completely concur with what you're saying. So yeah, as long as
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
consistent and you put things out, that is what matters initially.
Yeah, for sure. You need time to slowly improve, and
Right,
you
right.
start figuring out little by little. There's no one moment where you go from a poor performer
Yeah.
to a good performer, right?
Right, 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 right.
It's like evolution. There are so many small steps. It's hard to point pinpoint that one day where you
Precisely,
transform.
precisely.
True.
And like, as they say, Rome was not built in a day, so it does take time,
Exactly.
and there's a
Yeah.
lot of effort behind it. Right? Yeah. Coming back to your presentation, go ahead, go ahead.
Yes. So this is when I got slightly better. I started experimenting with more things, a basic pass plot and a basic pizza chart. It's called.
Hmm.
Um, and this is what I've done more recently. So now, as I said, as time has gone by, I've started narrowing down what is required when. So, for
Right.
example, if you see this, this is a viz about Tammy Abraham. He's a striker.
Yeah.
Right,
Do
right,
you want to see his pass plot? No.
right,
I
right,
mean, unless you're specifically talking about his passing attributes, it's not really needed.
right,
Yeah.
What's more important is things that highlight him and his qualities. So that is where this comes in, right?
Right.
Again, a
right,
pizza chart, a progressive pass reception zone heat map, which basically just shows when he's receiving progressive passes. So basically, a progressive pass is a pass that breaks opposition lines, right?
Hmm.
So whenever
right,
you see, for example, Antonio Rudiger just playing a defense splitting, or not even a defense splitting, a midfield splitting pass straight into the feet of Romelu Lukaku.
right,
That is what you call a progressive pass.
right,
Right.
And
right,
these are the ones where Tammy Abraham most frequently receives these passes. And then the shot map, a classic thing just to know where he shoots from, his shooting location. So this is for a striker. If you watch Ruben Neves' shot map, most of the things will be concentrated outside that box.
right,
Right.
right, right,
So
right.
this is probably what I've learned: what to use, when to use.
Okay,
Again, this is what I made for Declan Rice. So now
okay,
you don't want to see where Declan Rice shoots from,
Yeah.
right? He's a
right,
defensive midfielder, and this is basically I tried to figure out what are his most common tendencies with the
Hmm.
ball. So when
right,
he passes, where does he pass? What are the zones which he looks forward to the most? So if you watched any amount of West Ham, as I did before making this, you'll realize that they are a very Liverpool-like team, not in a quality way, but in a tendency way, where
Hmm.
most of their build-up and most of their progression they try to funnel through their fullbacks, Aaron
right,
Cresswell and Vladimir Sufal, or I think Ben Johnson is the other right back.
right, right,
And
right.
that is what you can see here, right? The green one, which is
Precisely.
his most common cluster of passes, that points to the left, and the
Right.
Right,
second passing cluster points to the right. It's
right,
not
right,
backward passes, it's not forward passes.
right, right,
So
right.
this is the type of context I want to add.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
just about making beautiful graphs or something. You need to tell a story. You
Yeah.
need to convey a point.
right,
True.
right, right. Anurag, can you just, that cluster is basically just to highlight an area, right? It's not anything apart from like,
So this is a K-means cluster.
Yeah. That's what I was
okay,
going to ask. So, what clustering technique do you use? So, this is clearly K means here.
Yeah. So if you have any idea about machine learning, you'll know that K-means clustering is a I forgot what it's called. I think it's called something like when you work with non-labeled data,
Yeah.
right?
Unsupervised learning.
Yeah, unsupervised learning. Correct, correct, correct.
So, just to tell you quickly what it is. So, essentially, you just have a bunch of points. And so, let's say you have this point here, and a left, right half, and a left half. So, and there is this one point which you want to know where it is. So, if it is on the left or if it is on the right. So, essentially, you just find the centroid, like the center of the cluster for the left part, and the center of the cluster for the right part, and you just check which one is it closer to, and you associate that to that cluster.
okay, okay.
Correct,
To put it
correct.
very simply.
Yeah,
Yeah,
obviously, and I'll take your guys' word for it because I am like I'm just picking up on hand gestures and words here, so I'll just take your word for it, guys. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So the main intention here is to not have any bias from our side
Hmm.
and let the system or the model decide how to cluster all these passes.
Right,
Because if I start doing it on my own, I'll probably do it differently.
Okay.
So that was the basic idea, to have as unbiased an opinion as possible. Just let the model do the heavy lifting.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
A good way to put it. Yep. Yep.
So this is what my latest work is like. So okay, this I did it in Python because this is not
Gotcha.
possible in Tableau.
Gotcha.
This requires programming, coding. This is what I did in Python. This is a scatter plot. This I did in Tableau.
Hmm.
So my intention here was, so United are always linked to players, and now they want a striker. So I wanted to make a plot that will help people understand the basic tendencies of a striker.
Hmm.
Now,
Okay.
my intention was, how do I convey the most relevant information with as little statistics as possible? So a basic X versus Y graph where I took shots per 90 and non-penalty XG per 90. So
Right.
it's basically how many shots the player is taking
Which are not
and
penalty
what is
shots.
the amount of, yeah, what is the quality of shots he's taking. That is what I
Okay.
wanted to compare.
Okay.
And then I had a very basic scatter plot. Then I wanted to check, okay, now I have a very basic framework of his shooting tendencies. What about his playmaking tendencies? So
Hmm.
then I added to it how many passes he's making into the penalty area,
Okay.
right? And
Hmm.
what
Okay.
is the expected assists he's generating. And
Okay.
that is what this basically is. So now if you look towards the center, right, you'll see two very prominent names pop up: Gabriel Jesus, Phil Foden. They
Right.
Right.
play in a
Right.
system
Right.
where ball progression and ball chance creation, two very
Hmm.
important things, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
that is where they pop up. They may not be taking as many shots per 90. They
Hmm.
may not be generating the most amount of XG per 90, but what
Right.
Yeah.
they're very good
Right.
at is creating for others and taking
True.
chances as well.
That's why they are color coded in red, essentially.
Red, yeah.
Yeah.
So as you go from blue to red, uh, the player starts making more passes into the penalty area.
Yeah.
If you take a look at the top right, Kylian Mbappe, Erling Haaland.
Yep.
Right.
Now,
Standouts.
if I tell you they are both very good strikers and they are both
Hmm.
very good finishers, I'll assume you already know that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
how do I convey to you that Kylian Mbappe is probably the better playmaker of the two?
Hmm.
Right. Right.
So now you can see that, okay, Kylian Mbappe is completing, he's making more passes into the penalty area,
Yeah.
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
But the size of those points are almost the same.
Hmm.
Right.
So what is the difference now? You should realize Kylian Mbappe does not play as a striker for PSG. He plays as a winger. That is
Winger.
Hmm.
why he's making more passes into the penalty area, right?
Okay.
Erling Haaland plays as a pure number 9. That is
Precisely.
why he may not be making a lot of passes, but he's still generating a healthy amount of expected assists, which means that he still has some playmaking ability,
Yep.
right?
Right.
Again, a similar thing with Diogo Jota, not the most heavy amount of passes, but still creating chances, still helping the likes of Salah and
Hmm.
now Luis Diaz, which is just
Precisely.
crazy. Yeah.
Precisely. Precisely.
Yeah.
So this is the
Yeah.
intention.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the intention with these things. I just don't want to show people that Mbappe and Haaland are the best strikers.
Hmm.
I
Right.
want to give a better picture, and at the same time, I don't want to overload, with statistics, just putting random numbers.
Hmm.
Right. Random numbers and random names as well, right? Like you would not
Exactly.
want
Yeah.
to put in, like, I'm just going through the list. There are a lot of players which I don't know, a few players whose name I'm aware of, a few who I've seen maybe in Champions League, maybe in some of the leagues in which they
Mhm.
play. I just wanted to ask you now, in such a type of statistic, in such a type of visualization, I mean, is there any way for you to probably plot a metric or a statistic which highlights the difficulty of the league, if there is any such stat available? I mean, because
Hmm.
clearly, Kylian Mbappe playing against an 18th placed French team versus Erling Haaland playing against a 14th or a 15th place or even an 8th placed team, there would be differences, right? Or the other way around, if
Yes.
Mbappe is playing against an 8th or ninth place team in the French league, that could be equivalent to Erling Haaland playing against the 14th or 15th place team. So simply
Yeah.
because Bundesliga is levels above PSG at the above Liga at the moment. So is there any way for you to incorporate such a kind of metric in these visualizations? If you have ever tried to do that,
I've certainly thought about it, but there's no specific metric
Mm.
because so firstly, these stats are provided by StatsBomb on a website
right,
known as FDF,
right,
and what most of these stats are based on is something called event data. So event data is just a big list of everything that's happening in a match, but centric to the ball.
okay,
So
okay,
whatever is happening with the ball, that is what they note down
Yep.
basically. So
okay,
passes, shots, stuff
okay,
like that, and that is where majority of the data here comes in, and that
okay.
a league difficulty is not something you can, you know,
You can't quantify it
yeah, you can't capture that in numbers. I
precisely.
think I don't remember who, but there is someone on Twitter who has written a very good article on
Yeah.
how basically different leagues translate to the Premier League. I think
Mm.
it was Premier League focused, and there you realize something like the Portuguese league is probably a
Yeah.
better place to find talent than the Bundesliga. So
Mm.
you
Okay.
see, Timo Werner has struggled, Kai
Right, right,
Havertz has struggled, Jadon
right,
Sancho has struggled.
right,
So
right.
again, there are different reasons to it, and I think that article went into uh, they tried to put it into numbers,
Okay,
which was very good.
okay,
If I
okay.
find it,
Yeah, yeah,
I'll
please
let you
do.
know.
Please do. We'll be happily add that to the description as well. So
Yeah,
even I
Yeah.
would love to read it because that is like what the media always says. Like, right, a player
Mm.
can be good in a different league, but when he comes to the Premier League, first of all, Premier League is the unspoken benchmark of the pooling the best talent in Europe and across the world. Then you have the narrative that Spanish leagues and these French and Portuguese, Italian leagues, they are probably a tier below or probably two tiers below what is the quality of the Premier League. And
correct.
you always get swayed by these comments, but like you said, it would have been so much more easier if we would be able to portray that in numbers and quantify it in one way or another, right?
That's actually
Yeah,
the $1 million question. So once somebody comes out with this statistic and presents
Right,
it to the scouts of the club, I think a lot of these tasks become easier because then, as you said, like the attempt to map Portuguese league to the Premier League. So if we have a number to kind of visualize instead of just saying arbitrarily the Premier League is the best league.
right,
Yeah,
right,
once we that's the $1 million question. That's what everybody, I mean, most of the top level data scientists are trying to solve right now.
right,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
And there's a lot of variance to it. For example, I mentioned you three names who have come from the Bundesliga and struggled. And if you tell that to someone, they'll very immediately agree. But in such cases, we don't speak about Kevin De Bruyne, who came from
Also,
Bundesliga and has just ripped apart the Premier League, right?
Precisely.
So there is a lot of variance. Something
it
like this is
is,
very
yeah,
difficult to
it
capture
is
in numbers.
definitely difficult to like
and
Yeah.
it and
put it in.
given the sheer, like, you have such a vast population, like,
Hmm.
we only speak about, now we spoke about all the players you spoke about play in the top 3 top 4 clubs of the English Premier League. There would be so
Right.
many transfers within the other, like, from Bundesliga to French league, from French league to Portuguese league, which we would not be aware of simply because there is such an insane amount of data to work upon. It's probably impossible, and you just feel like 24 hours or less to process all of that. So I can
Hmm.
completely understand this. Like, it's very difficult to establish a straight, like, something which is the general rule of the land, simply because you
Mhm.
have eye grabbing exceptions in the form of Kevin De Bruyne, like you mentioned.
Yeah, there are more. I'll just mention one name and then maybe we can move ahead if we need to. But Brighton's Pascal Gross.
Hmm.
So everyone is now familiar with how good Brighton are with the recruitment. I'm pretty sure they even got him from the Bundesliga. And now, as he has aged out, he has declined. But when he joined, he was one of the best players in the Premier League, one of the best midfielders when they got him. I mean, relative to what he is and what were the expectations.
Right. And I think another player who used not from the Bundesliga, but I think he was signed from the Spanish league for Brighton, Cucurella. I
Yeah.
think he
Yeah.
played for Barcelona B, if I'm not wrong, and he was picked up from by Brighton. And nobody had heard of him. But then, if you put in stats like how players from La Liga, when they come to the English Premier League, they don't play so well. And then
Yeah.
when you put someone like Cucurella in that discussion, then it's
Hmm.
always like it does not, it disproves whatever you were trying to prove in the first place. If I'm not wrong, right?
Yeah. Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. So next part of your presentation.
Yeah. So apart from visualizations is just when I want to tell something in a very brief manner, but when I
Right.
want to, do a deep dive,
Hmm.
that
Right.
is where I'll usually write. I'll do a proper article on my blog.
Right.
For example, the picture I have here is the one I did about Ruben Neves. So a lot of people were calling for Man United to sign him
Hmm.
Okay.
as a defensive midfielder and especially as the single pivot player in the 4-3-3. And
Right.
what I looked to again analyze here is he really that player? Can he actually do it? And the I came to is maybe not. And would you like to take a risk if you have infinite money? Sure,
Hmm.
but that is not how it works.
Hmm.
So maybe not the best option. So I try to address questions like that. So yesterday I released a new article where I looked at if Eric Ten Hag were to join Manchester United, would getting Urian Timber be the
Hmm.
best idea? Because a lot of fans are calling for Urian Timber, and the more absurd part is a lot of them think that okay, let's play him at right back and he can play the inverted right back role because
Hmm.
now that's the new hipster trend, right?
Yeah.
You just hear these terms and you watch Cancelo and Trent Alexander-Arnold do it, and you're like, oh sure, even we want this.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, let's play Urian Timber at inverted right back. And I spoke to a few of them on Twitter, and I asked them, what are your expectations?
Hmm.
And the thing they want him to do, the thing they ended up describing, relates more to a right-sided centre back in a back three. So, for example, what a Christensen or
Christensen
what
is
a
doing. Right.
is, that is
Hmm.
what they imagine him doing. But that's not what an inverted right back does.
Right.
Yeah.
Even I
So
think Reece
that is
James is not an inverted right back because I don't see him being
exactly.
given the freedom that Cancelo or Alexander Arnold is given for their respective clubs. Right.
Yeah, and I think Reece James's strengths, his running and his ball carrying is good enough to not limit him. I
Yeah.
won't say not limit him, not optimize him. He's not being optimized if you play him as a inverted
Hmm.
right back. At least
Right.
not for now, not in this current Chelsea system because you already have N'Golo Kante and Mateo Kovacic. What else do you want in your midfield? You
Yeah.
want someone who will hold width because you
Right.
don't have that right winger. ZH is not
Precisely.
that guy.
He's not. He's not.
Havertz, Mount, these are not the guys. So it's all about player optimization. It's not just about buying players and just putting them into the team. It's not a puzzle piece.
Yeah.
You
True.
need to optimize these players' strengths.
Right.
So
Right.
things like that, things which I can't do in a Twitter thread because the character
Yeah.
limit doesn't allow me to. I'll
Fair.
put them in the blog.
Right.
How do you look at these players? Like I saw you did one about Tammy Abraham, one about Neves. So do you look at transfer targets that are linked to United and research about them and write a piece on them, or is it like arbitrary? You just pick some player.
That's how it has been recently
Hmm.
because of all these transfer rumors and stuff like that. But in the past, I've done some pretty random articles. When I started out, I did article where I was trying to see what striker can Brighton buy. I think it was for the
Right.
beginning of the season or something like that. I did it. And when Nuno was signed for Tottenham and they were looking for a centre back, I think I did that before they signed Christian Romero from
Right.
Atalanta. And I basically took all the stats and again I applied a clustering method and I titled it using machine learning to
Hmm.
find an alternative for Jules Koundé, because I think they wanted Jules Koundé, but he seemed to be going to Chelsea.
Right.
So I was like, okay, which player resembles him the most from the
Hmm.
stats I have available?
Right.
And I think a few names I came up with is Maxence Lacroix from Wolfsburg,
Hmm.
uh, Benoit Badiashile from Monaco, and I think there's another name that I'm forgetting. So yeah, stuff like that. It's not very United Central. I
Right.
tend to write about some random things as well.
Fair.
Do you have like this you get into a spat or an argument with someone on Twitter, and then it's like, now I'm going to prove you so wrong, and then you decide, let's just prove him wrong and make such a fantastic visualization and blog, and then maybe the person with whom you've had a spat ends up airing you or not replying to you simply out of shame, but you have a fantastic article and a visualization in place just to prove a point. Has that ever been the case with you, where you just to settle a score, you were like, I'm going to prove you so wrong right now?
Yeah. Not really, because I tend to move away from these arguments, because if I start doing that, 99%
Yeah.
of Twitter is just arguments and comparisons, and that is
It's
not.
not the most healthiest thing to do as well.
It isn't. It
It's not
isn't.
a place where I want to, put my energy in.
Exactly.
I'd
Yeah.
rather do it with someone. I don't care if they disagree with me. I
Hmm.
just want to have a healthy discussion with someone who's willing to listen. And I
Precisely.
have been proven wrong. I've been wrong about a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I don't mind being wrong. But yeah, doing something to prove someone wrong is not really which
Hmm.
something that I look to do.
Right, right. Taking the high
Great.
road and just moving
Yeah,
on
I
with
think
what
the
you.
closest I came to that is the Urian Timber article,
I
because I
see.
just
Okay.
saw there was a ignorance on people's part, and there's this famous account on Twitter called United Arena, and he had done a poll basically a few weeks back where he asked people who want Eric Ten Hag, how many matches of Ajax have you actually seen?
Hmm.
And I
Right,
think
right, right.
an astounding majority said zero.
Yeah.
No one has watched Ajax.
Yeah, yeah.
And just everyone just wants Eric Ten Hag. So it's stuff like that. After a point, you realize, okay, there's no point discussing with him, because even he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's just
Hmm.
pure, stubbornness that he's clinging to his point.
Right. No, but Anurag, I'll just like to point out and say that when you're in a ship which has holes, you will grab onto anything which offers you some form of relief or support.
Yeah.
So I can understand the perspective that the United fans, especially the fans on Twitter, would have. And to be very honest, when Thomas Tuchel took over Chelsea, even I had not watched a lot of his massive matches for PSG or for Dortmund. I'd watched a few, okay, more of those which were in the UCL. But other than that, I did not watch them simply because uh, the league which is marketed and presented to us the most in India is the Premier League. So you are
Yeah,
naturally drawn towards it. You're naturally drawn
Yeah.
towards whatever happens in that, and plus you have the game called the Fantasy Premier League, where you would want to
correct.
you watch more and more matches. And I don't see any other league whose game fantasy game has come up to such a level.
True.
So coming
True.
back, I've not watched a lot of Thomas Tuchel, but I've known enough to know that he is a good tactician. And then there was this element of faith and everything, and whatever panned out last year. Right,
Yeah,
right.
and you can't expect everyone to watch every game of every player you want to talk about, right? It's
Precisely.
just that there are some people who will so viciously hang on to the point.
Hmm.
I think that's the problem. They just hang on to it without having any support, and you just realize, okay, this is not working enough.
Yeah.
It's okay
Right.
to say I've not watched him or I've only seen X games, and this is what I concluded from that. That's totally fine to say.
Right, right, right.
Just
But
admitting
that's
that I don't know
but that
everything
does
is good.
not but that does not give you the numbers and the following on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
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 I this is my genuine belief that if you remove the like and retweet feature, basically you stop giving attentions. Where you can just tweet something and that's it. I think all these people will just
Yeah.
calm down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
For
guess I
sure. For
guess
sure.
I guess we'll see Anurag ferociously tweeting at Elon Musk, asking him that the edit button can wait. Let's see if we can implement this first, and
Yeah.
then you can focus your attention on the edit button.
For
Right, right.
sure.
Anurag, yes, back to your whatever you have in store for us next.
Yeah. So this is the answer to your previous question.
Yeah.
How do I make these visualizations? It's Python, Tableau, Excel, PowerPoint, and MPL Soccer is a Python library,
Yeah.
which has basically automized a lot of things for you,
Hmm.
where you can just use the data, and you can use very simple code, and they have all the code documented as well.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much copy paste to a certain point, and
And
it'll
they
just
have it
give you.
standardized across all formats for
Yeah,
Okta, for StatsBomb, for all kind of
correct.
data providers. So it's really a good tool to use.
Yeah, so it'll just give you a very quick heat map, pass map, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
this is what I mostly use. And this is the last slide, people who have inspired me. So I'll go with why these names exist. So, as I mentioned in the beginning, Football Daily is where I got introduced to statistics. If you're someone who's never been into this and you are scared of numbers, I think Football Daily is a good place to start. They'll introduce you to very basic numbers. They'll talk about things in a analytic way and in a very emotional way sometimes as well. So it's a good place to just dip your feet into water and just have a look around.
Hmm.
Then after that, I kept following United Arena, and he is the person who I feel really, really taught me how to think about football. It's not just scoring a goal. It's not just about making these flashy passes or doing skills. Um, if you follow his account, you'll actually learn how do you think about football, how do you think
Hmm.
about what's happening. That is where I really got into analysis. Maram, if you followed my work, if you just see my visualizations, you won't take 5 minutes to figure out, okay, this guy has really, really been inspired by Maram. She
Yep.
is the queen of visualizations. She has inspired so many people like me. And I have no shame in admitting that I have drawn a lot of inspiration from her work and the way she does it.
She's
Apart
now
from
on the Athletic, right? She's signed with the
Yeah,
Athletic now.
she's now.
She's
I
really
think she's
big
a
now.
analyst at the
Yeah.
Athletic. It's just insane, given how she shared that she's from a finance background.
Yeah.
She doesn't know programming, and yet she's achieved
Yeah.
a brilliant feat. Then there's Friends of Tracking. You mentioned David Sumter,
Yeah.
and they have a very good YouTube channel. Again, a lot of things that you get to learn. It is education. It is not just entertainment.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
get educated about football, you get educated about analytics. And yeah, actually the article which I did about using machine learning to find a center back alternative, that was after watching Madam's appearance on Friends of Tracking.
Hmm. I see.
And yeah, and Ninad is a person from whom I learned Tableau. So on his Twitter profile, I think he has it pinned. He has done uh, I think 5 or 6 tutorials on how to create scatter plots, how to create a dashboard for players using Tableau. So that is why a big shout out to him. Make is the person. He is. Whenever someone asks me that, hey, I'm a beginner, where do I start? I say, go to Make Johns.
Yeah.
Go to his profile, go to his YouTube channel. That is where you start. So yeah, these are the people. There are a lot of people who I'd like to give a shout out to
There's a
because they're
bunch of them.
yeah. But these are the people, they are the founding members of my journey. I'll
Definitely.
say.
Yeah.
Right,
Also,
right.
there is a Discord channel, which I believe you are a part of as well, Anurag, and so am I. We share a lot of this stuff, and there are different channels where you can talk about. There's a section called Python Help. There's a section called
Yes.
Tableau Help. So people post their stuff as well too for the moderators. They kind of discuss where you can improve things, what changes you can do to your model or your visualization. So
Correct.
we
I
can
think
share
that
the
was started
Discord. Yeah. So we can
Yeah,
share
yeah.
the Discord chat as well if people want to join and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
start.
So
Yeah.
all everything that Anurag is being mentioned has mentioned, his blog, his articles, all of these accounts. I'll be happy to add them in the description of this episode, and everyone who's watching this, please feel free to follow them.
Yeah, for sure. Do give a follow to the work these people are doing, because they are the reason I'm here, essentially. So yeah, sharing wise, that's all I had.
Perfect. That was amazing.
That was genuinely, like, fantastic. And I've always had this curiosity, as to how you guys do it. And the one niche in that is that Tableau is something which I feel there's, see,
Mm.
I don't like I don't like that the coding, that screen, that black screen that comes, and that font. I really don't like it from the bottom of my
Yeah,
heart. That is something which I stayed away from as much as possible. Even in school, I think the equivalent was, when we used to do that logo thing. I don't know if you guys had it or not, or HTML, some
I
brackets
see.
and everything. All of that, basically, and I did not like it. Okay. So
Okay.
coming back to this discussion, you mentioned Tableau, and I think Tableau is something which a person who does not know coding can explore. And you mentioned
for sure.
Ninad is a Tableau expert, so to say. So maybe
Mm.
Yes,
maybe we can have another episode in the future where Ninad also joins us, and we can have another discussion on Tableau and everything that you can achieve using Tableau, right?
for sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's the guy.
Also, yeah. Yeah, I believe you've also featured your visualizations on Five, Rio Ferdinand's channel, and Stephen Housen was there as well.
Yeah.
Talk to us more on that.
So
Celebrity in
that's
the
a
house.
crazy.
Yes.
That's a crazy story. So basically, when I realized, I think it was a few months ago, where I realized just how terrible our right backs are and how good Mazarawi is. I made a very basic progressive pass map for Wan Bissaka, Diogo Dalot, and Mazarawi, and I just put them on one sheet and I just tweeted it out. And then I realized Stephen Housen had released a video about our right backs. I think he spoke
Mm.
about Diogo Dalot or someone. It was a video related to right backs, and I just tagged them. And I'm
Mm.
like, I was just like, hey, I saw your video. Maybe you'll find this interesting.
Yeah.
And I just tweeted it. I had no expectations from it. And then after a few days, he didn't reply to that tweet directly, but he just put out that, hey, I remember someone tagged me in a visualization about Mazarawi,
Mm.
but I've forgotten who it was. Can someone link it to me? And
Yeah.
one of his followers linked my tweet,
I
and
see.
he saw that, and he got in touch with me asking, can you do this for me? We are starting this new series, and we'll be talking about XYZ players. So can you do this for me? And I was like, sure, yeah, why
Yeah.
not?
Why not?
That's good.
Yeah.
That's actually so cool. Like, not only do you like, but see, every one of us, we are football fans. We always love when anyone talks about football, but then when someone who knows what they're talking about, and when someone who is the prominent figure in football picks you up,
Mm.
and I'm very sure that, I mean, I don't know how involved Rio Ferdinand is with that channel on a day-to-day basis, but I'm very sure that probably he must have glanced at it. And to have this feeling for you as a milestone, that you started out, uh, you know that guy in college who just learned a bit of Python, and that guy who thought Fernando Torres was Sergio Ramos was Fernando Torres, to end up on one of the best center backs of England, of football, on his YouTube channel. It must have been a great moment for you and a great milestone for you as well, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I remember my hands were trembling when I saw a DM from Steve, and I just ran outside and I told my parents, see, this happened, and they were like, who's this guy? What are you talking about? Because they knew I'm doing something
Yeah.
related to football, but they weren't exactly sure what I was doing.
Yeah, yeah.
But as when it was released on YouTube and then I showed it to them, then they were like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, surreal. It was a surreal experience.
Nice, man. Nice. And genuinely, like, you have plans to make your own YouTube channel for these things?
Um, Not right now. I have not thought about it. I'm not really a video person, and that sort of a content creator. I'm more of trying to, get into writing.
Hmm.
Okay,
So that is
okay,
where
okay.
my focus is right now.
Okay, 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 okay. Yeah, and like like you said, you did not imagine yourself ending up in this situation and this
Yeah.
wonderful scenario where you are combining what you know with the love for a sport, which is football. But do you have? I mean, what are your future plans related to this? Is this something you want to get into full time, or is it something that you would like to keep as a hobby and nurture it progressively, but in limited amounts, and not make this something which your livelihood is dependent upon?
I think right now I'm somewhere in between. So I'm still, I'll say I'm at a crucial juncture in my career where I'm doing something, and this is right now it's still a hobby, but I have an eye on it. I hope I can someday get into it as a career. I don't know how feasible it is or how to get there.
Right,
I've not figured that out yet, but I hope to
right.
figure it out along the way.
Right, right, right. And that's genuinely so good. I mean, like you said, like from where you started to where you are. And like, and similarly for, like, we were talking a lot about Anurag, but this is also how Amod got into it and how he ended up. Like, he saw Friends of Tracking and that's how he got into it. And like, to look back and think that what if you watched something else the other day, or if Anurag did not watch that match of Fernando Torres Sergio Ramos mix up, or if he did not learn Python, you never know where you would have
Yeah.
ended up if
What if
you.
I didn't take that quiz? Which footballer I should
Yeah.
be?
Precisely, precise. Oh, that I mean, we always say these quizzes are absolutely useless, but like you can,
Yeah,
in your TED talk when you will deliver one, you can always say that those who take these quizzes don't ever think that they're useless. You can anything
Yeah.
can come out of them.
absolutely. I was such a big fan of Fernando Torres. I remember I googled his address when he was at Chelsea, and oh, the embarrassing part is yet to come. So I googled
Oh,
it,
there's
and it
more.
was,
There's more.
yeah, there was something Kings Road, something Fulham, and I checked, is Fulham in or around London, and I remember, yes, I wrote him a letter and I sent
Oh,
Oh,
it.
really?
oh,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it never reached it to him because it was just a random address on Google, but I did that.
right. Hey, I mean, ek tarfa pyar.
Ah,
This is a
Perfectly.
this is the most football variant of ek tarfa pyar. That
Yeah.
people hang posters, people have memories and card newspaper cutouts, and here Anurag is sending letters to some random Google address, hoping Fernando
Yeah.
Torres will read them. Yeah, but I mean, like, like, brilliant, brilliant. Like, whatever you are, I mean, wherever you have come from and whatever you have achieved and whatever you're going to achieve, that's absolutely brilliant. Just a quick word of advice, like, as we are heading towards the closure of today's episode, for anyone who wants to get into this, like, I'll ask this question to Amod as well. Uh, where would you tell them to start? Like, like a person like me now, I have had a background in commerce and finance and accounting, but I've never done what you guys are doing. So if I would want to start, and if I want to get into this, even if it's a hobby or if it's as a full-time thing, where do I start? Anurag first, you, then Amod can give his perspective also.
yeah. So I think I've shared enough on the actual visualization part. I think
Right.
my advice will be how to actually get into this work, or you know creating this sort of content. And my biggest advice would be just post it. Don't think if it's pretty enough. Don't think it's if this is the best visualization that's out there, because there always be someone better. Just post it. Don't wait. Don't second guess yourself. It doesn't matter how terrible you think it is. Just post it. Make that a habit. Just putting it out there. As I showed you those visualizations which I made. I call them my early visualizations. That were the earliest visualizations I could find.
Oh,
That they are not my first visualizations. My first visualizations will be even worse. So,
Hmm.
just start posting it. Don't, just keep it. If you keep it, nothing's going to happen.
right.
And as you start posting, you'll start figuring things out. That can come later. That will
Right.
be my biggest advice.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get totally true on that because even I have my own blog and I'm not as active as you are, maybe on posting on Twitter or on my blog. But yeah, I do try to find something and post it there. Like on occasion, I build some tool and I just post it on Twitter or LinkedIn or somewhere. And it does get attraction. Like I have some people from some clubs, they talk to me like, how did you build this? And say it was a great time. And definitely like some people will look at it, someone will share it, retweet it, and maybe it can reach the target that you are trying to achieve. Like don't think about that, but definitely
Yeah.
just post it out there, like read it out. Maybe it can, maybe it will not. Don't worry about the result, but just start working.
Yeah, I
And
think you touched upon a very good point there. Sorry, just to cut you off.
yeah, no
Don't
worries.
post it with the expectation that
Yeah,
someone, a big account, is going to retweet it or
yep,
he's going to share
exactly,
it. Post it because you want to put it out.
exactly.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like you guys are, telling that, the clubs and all are getting picked up and will pick up your article. The YouTube channel will pick up your article. Now, draw parallel to what I am doing now, this podcast and all, I'm what? By the way, I think this is our 10th episode. So we've hit a double digit on episodes on this podcast. So that is something which I never thought would happen. Just a random thing that hit my head. Coming back to this, like, I look at this podcast, or you guys would also look at whatever things you post out as your personal diary, which you are
Hmm,
willing to show the world
for sure.
what you are thinking, what you are saying, and like the parallel here is like you would not want, if you post with the expectation of a big account retweeting it, then it probably will not be that successful and you'd end up disappointed. And similarly, the episode that I'm making and the people I'm getting and the conversations I'm having, it's never with the intention to get 1,000 subscribers within a short span, or
Yeah,
a million views on so and so episode. I do joke about it that I would like 1,000 view episode or whatever, but that's never the aim getting into this. So that the point you mentioned about posting just because you want to post and creating just because you want to create, it's absolutely, you've hit the nail on the head, and you've given out a solid piece of advice. uh right. So Anurag, any others in the, we've spoken a bit about football also. We've spoken a lot about football. Do you follow any other sports where you have such form of visualizations, or right now football is the only thing you focus on?
I think right now it's just football. I'm not very into other sports. I try to catch a few things here and there. I watched the last race of Formula One, the last race of last season,
Right.
and just kept on hearing that, okay, don't expect every race to be like this. And
I mean, people who have watched Formula One for 70 years or 75, or howsoever long that sport is, I don't even think they will expect such a race to happen anytime. Like, so much drama in a single race. Like, I mean, I remember I watched it with a couple of my friends, and we were not wanting Mercedes to win, so we were so dejected like for a long period of time. We were so dejected, we're like, nothing's gonna happen. We just came for no reason, and just that madness happened at the last few laps, and then yeah, I mean, like, I think F1 visualizations would be so much complex and so much more harder than football visualizations, right? Because there's
I
just
just realized there is one Twitter account. I think it's Aditya, the Come On Man. That's his Twitter account. He was doing football visualizations. I think he's switching over to F1 visualizations now.
Oh, is it?
If I'm not wrong. If I'm not wrong.
Is it? Is it? Nah, I think I have to follow. I have to check that account.
Yeah.
Like, F1 is a sport, like, it has so many complexities. It's
Yeah.
probably,
Yeah.
I think I read somewhere it's the most complex sport, or the most complex motorsport of some sort in the world or whatever. Like, I
Yeah.
know. But you're not a cricket fan, Anurag, by any means.
I was, of course, like every other kid in India, I was a cricket fan. I was a Sachin Tendulkar fan. What really dragged me away from it, and apologies to any fans, but it was IPL. And
Ooh.
after the 2011 World Cup, I think that's the last concrete memory I have of cricket. And just as IPL got better and not better, it got bigger and bigger.
Right.
I
Mm.
just felt that I'm not really that into
I
this,
see. Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
so much commercialization, and
Precisely.
that is what slowly pulled me out of it.
Right, right.
I'll still
So
follow India when
yeah,
India
yeah.
plays in a World Cup, but not cricket.
Hmm.
Right, right, right. So a follow-up question to that: would you be dragged away from football if the European Super League happens?
I think at this point I'm a little too invested in it. But it,
टेढ़ा है पर
Fair.
मेरा है.
it's I've gotten a little too attached. I've
Right,
gotten a little too invested.
right,
But
right,
there'll be a dent. There'll certainly be a dent,
right,
especially
right.
the way they were planning to do it without
Any
relegation,
consent?
without
Yeah, yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah,
It was like a a secret meeting, and
Yeah.
like when the teacher is teaching in the class and you plan something on the last bench, it was something on those lines. So I
Hmm.
can, like, yeah, it was not a good period. And
yeah.
I also read that the Super League is still being discussed somewhere, and now the Champions League things is going to change from next season. They are going to put two positions for historically some
Relevant
historical
clubs.
Yeah.
relevant. So
Yeah.
that's how United is going to come back in the Champions League. Given, see, it's 4D chess by Ragnick. He does not want to qualify with the normal way of coming in the top four. He wants that first club to be in the Champions League with historical recognition. That's how
You know,
he
the,
wants to be there.
like I don't want to deviate too much from what Anurag. This was about Anurag, but if we do end up in the Conference League and if we end up winning it, our Twitter account is definitely going to post that we are the first club to ever win every set of European trophies.
We are going to market the absolute hell
Yeah,
out of
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the way you guys market a loss is something that Chelsea account should take. I mean, like there's this meme, right? Rashford tweets after every loss. Elanga get, like, there was that meme, right, when Elanga did not play well, get that head of yours up or something.
Yeah.
And
I think it
that,
was after the Middlesbrough loss where
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
He
yeah,
he
yeah.
missed the penalty. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anthony Elanga, get that head of yours up immediately. That's how the meme steamrolled into
yeah,
every odd United match. Yeah, but like it's a turmoil for you guys, and it genuinely feels bad because there's been no trophy since 8 years, right? If I am not wrong.
I think
5 years
five or
now.
6 years after
Oh
the
no,
Europa
sorry,
League.
2017. Right, right, right. Sorry. Yeah, I mean it's crazy to see that Jose Mourinho's bold prediction that United finishing second, right, and Europe winning the Europa League would be his biggest achievement for a very long period of time. But do you think, now we'll just end it on a United note and just say, I mean, give us your thoughts on Eric Ten Hag, and I call him Ethereum because that's his initials, but
ETS.
it's so easy to remember Ethereum. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Ten Hag, and how do you think it will pan out? And Ten Hag with Ralph Rangnick in probably the DOF role. How would you see that combination panning out? Anurag and then Amod.
So short term, it won't be great. Um, it all depends on how much power the club is willing to give him, and those are the reports coming out which I'm very encouraged to see. That he's already demanding that I'm only going to sign with you guys if you allow me, if you give me the power to for me to get rid of who I want, to decide contracts, incomings, outgoings, everything. And I'm really, that is where I feel, yeah, this is the right guy. And what I would say is, we were looking at two managers, Eric Ten Hag and Pochettino. And what I've seen is our squad, the profile of players we have, much more suited to Pochettino than Eric Ten Hag.
Okay.
Everything that's good about that Ajax side, none of it we have at Man United. None of it. Not the goalkeeper, not the centre back, maybe the centre backs, not certainly not the full backs, not the defensive midfielder, not the midfielder, not maybe Sancho, not or it's not the wingers, not the striker. So it's going to take a long time to overhaul this squad. We need to give him the power, the time, the patience. The word I used yesterday was, let's have a optimistic patience, or let's
Right.
be patiently optimistic.
Okay.
It's going to take time, but let's not overreact. The United fan base on Twitter is one of the worst fan bases, and
100%.
so
100%.
so reactionary. Every loss is death, and every win is a Champions League.
Yeah, yeah. So
There
true.
are just too many asterisks, too many terms and conditions.
Yeah.
But what I've seen so far, whatever reports are coming out, positive news, positive news.
Yeah, so I think I'm still a bit skeptic. Not because I don't trust in him actually turning it around, but I still don't trust our management and our board to actually pull through. Whether they would back him or not is a question. Like they can say right now we are going to back him, but saying action speaks louder than words. Do they really do that? Would be something to see. And if they back him properly, give him the players that he wants, sure, I think he could be a good fit for United. But
Right.
it's going to take a long time. It's not going to be next season, Premier League, Champions League, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I
Right.
It's
think
Right.
still going to take a long time.
I think he said it already that it's going to be a
Yeah,
5 year project, and that is the time I need.
yeah.
Right, right, right. And as a Chelsea fan, I've never had this longevity commitment with any manager, because one more a string of bad results and tata, bye bye, good night, goodbye. So I don't understand. I can't relate to what you guys feel about long term managers, and you've clearly had the longest some long reigns after Sir Alex Ferguson, with Moyes for a couple of seasons, with Mourinho, with Van Gaal, with even Ole under Ole. So you had a lot of long-term managers. I think the shortest tenures were Ryan Giggs and Michael Carrick for like a few matches, a
Those
couple of
were
matches.
Yeah,
caretakers, though.
Those were just caretaker matches, right?
I
Right.
think Moyes was the shortest. He was sacked within one season.
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was
yeah.
at the same season.
Yeah. So it's something which I can't relate, but I just it even if it is I don't like, I like the memes and I like the jokes which happen about United not performing, but they are historic English royalty, and it's a shame to see the way they are playing right now. And for healthy competition, it's always good to see another team in the mix. And given that we have a team of Newcastle which is pumped with an infinite amount of money, the top six could be threatened. And if United don't get back their groove very, very quickly, we could see a team like Newcastle usurping them and joining the big six, the way City joined them probably 10 years back, if I'm not wrong, 10 or 11 years back. So yeah, right. So with that, guys, I think we have reached towards the end of today's episode. Anurag, Amod, any last thoughts? Anything you'd like to add to this episode?
I just like to say thanks for inviting me. This was really good conversation, and I hope that some of the people who are looking for resources, how to get in, what to do, I hope it helped them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And Amod, your any last thoughts from your end?
Yeah, thank you, Rohan, for allowing me to co-host this. It was my first experience. I don't know if I did well or not. And also,
You
thank
did
you,
well. You
Anurag,
did well.
for spending your time with us. It was absolutely fantastic, your work and everything that you showed us. I think definitely someone would pick from it and start building visualizations of their own.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, thank you, Anurag, for joining, and thank you first of all, Amod, because I had never heard of Anurag before Amod introduced me to him, and I checked his profile out, I checked some of his work out, and it was an instant yes from me to have him on the podcast, and I was happy to take a back seat and let Amod direct the conversation with the technical stuff. So yeah, thank you, Amod, thank you, Anurag. Guys, all of their links would be in the description. And it's always funny that most of my episodes have started with a Twitter DM. So it turns out to be in terms of in football lingo, it's a Twitter DM has the biggest pull than any
Yeah.
other medium. So I'm glad that it is working, and it will hopefully keep on working. And yeah, so like I said, all of the description, all of the links of Amod and Anurag, and all the links that he mentioned about his article, about his visualization, maybe even the video where he was featured, and all the other accounts. All of them will be in the description. Right? It will be a very big description this time, given the number of accounts and links that we have to add. Thank you so much for watching. If you have stayed till here, and any form of feedback, any form of a suggestion, a like, a comment, anything is always welcome. We are always open to more and more feedback. Right. So with that, we have reached the conclusion of today's episode. Thank you so much. I'll catch you all in the next episode. Stay safe, and even if local regulations have eased, and you are not allowed, and you're allowed to not wear a mask, I'll still say mask up and stay safe. Thank you so much, guys. Catch you all in the next one. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.